Welcome in to Patriot Sports. This is Will Dundon here with Seth Coggin and Nick Truschel, and a special guest appearance from our buddy over at Rocky Top Insider, Ryan Schumpert. Guys, we have so much to cover today. Football is in full swing. We have absolutely everything, and the drama is ensuing. We're going to get into what I'm sure a lot of the listeners know I want to talk about at some point, but we're going to kick it off here, just a little college football roundtable. I think we should start with Bama, Texas, kind of the big noon kickoff, big game of the week. Just obviously a lot of eyes on it being that first game of the day into big name programs, however you want to look at it. Definitely two very big brands. I'll say this. I'll just kick it off with this. If Quinn Ewers plays that whole game, Texas wins.
Easily.
That's why I was making jokes with my buddy about the 2010 national championship game. It's like the same narrative from the last time Bama, but this time, they knocked Colt McCoy out, and that's what every Texas fan has been hanging on to for the last 12 years because they've done nothing since that game. It's just always all you hear is just, oh, if Colt McCoy hadn't got hurt in that, and if he hadn't got hurt in the championship, we're probably national champions. And that's firstly probably a lie. Like in this game, it actually might be true. They lost by 1 point. He really probably could have made a difference. But in that championship game, like Bama was probably still the better team, like probably going to win that one. But Texas fans are just always holding on. But I want to say something about the once proud Texas football program. And I thought about this today. I was just seeing a lot of love for Texas and a lot of Texas people being satisfied. A lot of Texas people being satisfied. Well, hey, Texas, you lost. Okay, you won nothing. You played a team close, and guess what? You're 0-1 on the record sheet. You lost. Like, you are Texas. Like, if Vanderbilt plays Alabama with 1 point, okay, yeah, you know what? Great job, Vanderbilt. You're a moral victory school. There are moral victory schools, and there are victory schools, and you thought Texas was a championship victory school. They act like it. They think they are, but they're not anymore. They're a moral victory school now. And I've watched it. I've watched Arkansas be a moral victory school now, but that doesn't happen anymore when you're an elite program. There are no moral victories. You almost won, but you blew it. You blew it. You had Alabama closer than about anyone besides Georgia in the last couple of years, and you let them off the hook. So the Hogs will have to finish the job. That's fine. I wanted Alabama to be undefeated, to be honest. I wasn't cheering for Bama, but I did not want Bama to lose because I just want the satisfaction of beating them. That's how my brain works. But Texas losers.
And none of these moral victories are going to count. I mean, Ewers is out for a while. Like, you got to deal with this. And Hudson Card played hurt, the rest of the game. So I don't even know what his status is. And he is just there was like a lot of controversy, was there not, between him and Ewers? Kind of people thinking the boosters were all in on Ewers, but I mean, it looked pretty clear to me that he was the much better quarterback out of the two anyway. So I don't know what their schedule really looks like, but I don't see Hudson Card just rattling off victories necessarily. Again, I don't know who's on their schedule. So
you guys see that was.
I just pulled that up. Actually, I was curious about that. But yeah, UTSA this week, Texas Tech, West Virginia, Oklahoma, and then Iowa State, and then Oklahoma State. Again, I don't. He's probably in that Oklahoma State timeline when he comes back. But it's just going to be so. It's going to be so Texas. To Seth's point, like they played great in that game, and they're going to drop like 2 of those next 4 or 5 games. Like they're just going to go 7-5, 8-4, probably 7-5, 6-6. And all the hype from a game that they easily could have won, it's going to be for naught. Like it just screams Texas.
It's so similar in a very different type of game to when they played the national champion LSU team really tight early in the season at home. Yeah. Like I think they were within a touchdown. Like they really were pretty, it was a way different game. It was like in the 40s, I believe. But it was super close. But they played them tight, and it was kind of like, well, we played a good team close, we're a lot better. And then they ended up probably going like 7-5 that year. Like, yeah, you played a good team close in week 2 when Alabama commits the most penalties they've committed in the Nick Saban era or something like that. When it's like 110 degrees on the field in Austin, you played a team close, like in week 2. Congrats.
I mean,
we don't even know how good Alabama is. Like Alabama has been
they're
very,
gonna
very
be
good.
We,
they're going to be
know
good,
that,
but we always view them as like untouchable. But the reality is they could easily lose a couple games like this year. I'm just saying we glorify Alabama and it's just week 2 and they committed like 15 penalties and you still lost. So take your L and just
That's true. I will say this, like Texas's defense, especially the front four looked
they were
really
getting
good
at Bryce Young. That's what blew me away the most. Will, I think to your point was that front 7 was literally just eating all over an Alabama offensive line that is usually stacked to the brim with talent. So I think that was the most telling thing that, hey, maybe Texas's defense is that good, but I'm thinking more maybe to Seth's point a little bit, maybe that offensive line has a little bit more, a few more holes in it than we thought.
Yeah,
well, and credit to Bryce Young at the end there too, just picking them apart. Go ahead, Chump.
Yeah, I mean, that was a weakness for Alabama last year was the offensive line, and they fired Doug Marrone, who was the offensive line coach, and it seemed like there was a lot of buzz about how much better the coaching was going to be there. And they got dominated, and then the receivers, which was obviously the problem for them in the championship game once Jameson went down, just weren't very good. And they bring Jermaine Burton in from Georgia, but I still think like there wasn't any solidified stud coming back in that room, and it's been a long time since that was the case in Alabama. And I think we all just kind of at least myself, expected them to figure it out, and maybe they still will. Probably they still will. I mean, it's Alabama, but it was a lot of the same problems that cost them in that Georgia game were still right there for the offense, and it just feels like Bryce Young might have to do a big-time carry job for that offense this year.
Yeah, and if nothing else, it just makes things interesting. We do see this, I feel like, maybe not every year, but pretty consistently, Bama plays someone that you expect them to kind of handle. And I mean, I guess you could say it was Arkansas last year. Obviously, I mean, Arkansas was pretty solid, but at the same time, I don't think anyone expected it to go, besides Seth, go to kind of the last little bit of the game. So
Florida game too, early in the year.
Yeah. I don't want to say like we get to see they're human, because who knows, they might come out and just rattle off 30 plus point wins here and there, but it does make things interesting. I'm circling that Arkansas game because just the way Arkansas's physicality they're playing with, that's what I'm really excited to see how they match up with them.
Yeah, and I'll be in the building, so pretty confident.
That's at least 3 points.
Yeah, I think it's like the home crowd is worth 3, and then Boscog in the home crowd, that's
worth
3.
Yeah,
6. That's 6, and then
all right, that's factors. An edge we have on Vegas there, boys. We might
we just let them know.
No, we don't let them know.
They're definitely listening in onto this pod. This can force.
You're gonna see the line come out and shift 3 points. I get calls. You in attendance?
Confirmation, or
I will have boots on the ground.
The last thing I'll say about this game, and then y'all can finish it up, or we can move on to the next one. I do kind of have some belief in Sark over at Texas. I'm not saying it's going to be this year, especially with Ewers out for a few games, but and this is obviously all, I guess, hypothetical, you could say, but I just see them next year, if Ewers is healthy, really rattling off some wins in will they be in the SEC next year?
Possibly. That'd be awesome.
Well, then, I don't know. And forget what I was about to say.
2025, right? Or
I bet they go. I honestly bet they go 2024. I bet the playoff starts that year and realign. I bet it kind of happens.
They are going to try to go early, I'd imagine. But
Big Ten, USC and UCLA are 2024, and like I said, like y'all had 2025 is what OU and Texas are slated for. But I think 2024 is still in play there.
Because that's 2 years. That's still that's not next season. That's like the season afterwards. So yeah, I could definitely see that.
That'll be the first year Arch Manning would be in line to be the starter.
Wow, Arch Manning becoming an SEC legend at Texas. That's almost sickening to me. But it's awesome. It's like cool that he goes to Texas and still becomes an SEC legend. Oh, that's crazy.
Well, and something I found interesting that everyone's kind of worried about is when Arch gets there, what happens with him and Ewers. But I mean, Ewers redshirted last year. So say he finishes off this season really well and just balls out next year. I mean, what's stopping him from going to NFL? Arch redshirts that year and he's still got 4 years left. I feel like that's a real possibility that people are overlooking a little bit.
Yeah, that'll work itself out. Like, I know. I wouldn't be worried about that at all. Just because to be honest, Arch Manning, yeah, probably going to be elite. Like, who am I to sit here and say a man? Like, it'd be really dumb of me to doubt a Manning at this point. But you do watch some of his highlights, and it's like this guy is playing against like some guys that are not going to be in the SEC next season. I'll say that.
That's fair.
So it's a big jump for anybody, and to say he'll be ready as a freshman is a little bold. Or he may need some time to develop. You never know. I mean, he may come and start in like Peyton, but he may be a lot different. But I think it's time to head on down to College Station. A little. Actually, I don't know directionally where that is in Texas because it's College Station. I've never had to go there.
Yeah, nobody knows where that is.
I feel like south is right.
It is south. I would think it's like south.
Near Houston.
Yeah, it's more near Houston. Yeah, so that's definitely south of like Austin, I guess. Although Austin's pretty far. I have been to Austin. It was a long drive. And I don't want to go to College Station. Oh, man, but Appalachian State did want to go to College Station. They almost tripled up the Aggies in first downs. They doubled them in yards, doubled them in time of possession.
It was a dominating performance.
It was a dominating performance from the best team in the game, the Appalachian State. I actually don't. Mountaineers. Yep. Great program. Honestly, not a great defense. You can't allow 60 points to North Carolina in 1 week and all of a sudden become a great defense. Like, that doesn't happen. That just doesn't happen. I don't care. If you allow 63 points to a mediocre ACC team, you're not automatically going to become Bama 2010. That's just not how defense works. A&M is down pretty bad. What are your thoughts, Jimbo? He's talked so much. And he has won so little in the last 8 years. Hot seat? You're saying hot seat?
Yeah.
I don't know. His buyout is pretty toasty.
Yeah,
it's $95 million.
He's under contract for so long. Like, what is there? And I'm still in a point here. I heard Josh Pate say today, but it's like they're so broken on offense. But what's this? I mean, he's the one in charge of the offense. Like, what's the solution? It's not go fire your offensive coordinator. Like, he's the guy in charge, and you've committed all this money to him in such a long-term contract that, I don't know what your quick fix is, other than him taking a long, hard look in the mirror and realizing that his offense hasn't been that good besides when Jameis Winston was the quarterback. And
Ryan,
he's been a pretty above average, no better than that coach when he hasn't had Jameis Winston. And I think, and again, with the transfer portal today, it's like that class they just brought in
could be gone.
Guys, they keep sucking and they don't have an opportunity, they're going to leave. Like, they'll go get money elsewhere with NIL and in the transfer portal. And it's crazy how quickly that type of stuff can turn. And I don't know. They've been broken on offense for a couple of years now, and there does not seem to be a quick fix at all.
No,
you're singing sweet music to Seth right now, but no, I agree with you. I heard someone talk about that whole Jameis Winston thing today, and even they had a run of kind of top 10, top 15 teams, but I mean, EJ Manuel was there. He was a great college quarterback anyway, played in the NFL for a little bit. So maybe that's the answer. They're getting some highly ranked quarterbacks, kinda. I mean, and they're just not working.
So was Haynes King. Yeah.
I
mean, Haynes King was a top 50 guy,
but he seems like he sucks, right?
Yeah, he's not been
like,
good.
That's what I mean. Like, I don't know. You got to find
was better when Calzada played last year.
Yeah.
As I really did a deep Wikipedia dive on Jimbo Fisher today at the office, it just became really apparent that just Jimbo came in and was very effective. Jimbo won his division in 4 out of his first 5 years as a coach. That included 2 conference championships and a national championship. So the last time he won the division was Jameis Winston's last year in college. Since then, he has gone 8 years, never finishing better than second in his division. Like, how do you come out of the gates 4 out of 5 and then you just drop off? I said it when they hired him. He was 5-6 at the time at Florida State. Like, he was flaming out at Florida State. And what I believed, he was on I compared them today. I don't know. It's probably a little bit of a slight to Jimbo. He's probably had a little more sustained success, but he seemed a lot more like Gene Chiswick's situation at Auburn.
That's fair.
A pretty decent coach. He won a few games, and then all of a sudden you have a generational talent. You go win a national championship, then he leaves, and you're kind of exposed for what you really are. Like 2 years after Jameis Winston is there, Jimbo's 5-6 after having gone like 8-4 the year before. It's like he was on a downward trajectory at Florida State. He gets hired at A&M, and what do you give like mediocre people like so much money and zero incentive to do? Like you give him such a long contract, you give him so much money. How's that going to inspire greatness in this coach who's going downhill? And he got so much, like he gets so much media love as being this genius coach. And like, what has he done? If anything, he has constantly underperformed. Like he literally, like they constantly have top recruiting classes, top expectations. And even if they win a few games, they don't meet them. Like he had one good season at A&M and it was COVID year, went 9-1, which is impressive. They had an impressive season that year. But even that year could have gone, if they go 7-3 that year, which they probably easily could have, something like that, just because there are several games a year that are definitely swing games. Then you're looking at something just really terrible. He has a worse record than Sumlin through 50 games. And he's
crazy,
the guy that was going to bring them to the nationals. Like he was the guy that was going to step up and take like the national stage, like truly be elite. And he's done nothing. They're just because then they even give him a contract extension after 2020. Like he already had 10 years and I think they added another couple on it. You just locked yourself into mediocrity with him. And their offense is putrid. And you're right. That is his thing. You are the offensive guru. And you are getting stopped by Alabama or Georgia is one thing, but getting stonewalled for 60 minutes against Appalachian State
that's
at home is just downright. It actually cannot happen. Like this should be a fireable offense. They should fight because I've seen it. If you start accepting losses to Appalachian State at home, are you going to win the national championship?
No. But I mean, who's going to pay that $95 million buyout? I mean,
I don't know. You're Texas A&M. You brag about having money all the time.
True.
Let's show some balls and use that money. Fire a coach that's never going to win a national championship at Texas A&M. You seriously sit right here and tell me Jimbo Fisher could win is going to win a national championship at A&M.
I mean, I don't believe it anymore. No.
I thought it was possible after the 9-1 win season, but
that was his best quarterback. Probably that was Kellen Mond's senior year, wasn't it?
Yeah. He had some crazy good numbers.
Kellen Mond was good. He got so.
Well, and what is that all it takes? Like, is that just what he needs?
It's like that. That's what unlocks his guru-ness as just an elite quarterback.
Well, but like Kellen Mond, I wouldn't say Kellen Mond is elite.
But he was good. Yeah, he was good. I mean, yeah, that's fair. He was not elite, but he was.
I don't know. I would put him in the great category. Maybe not quite elite, but
great college quarterback.
Well, hey,
I watched him beat
his
Arkansas
numbers were pretty good.
Hey, I got to say this because we talked about this about a year ago, me and Reese, and I said he is like I said he is Adrian Martinez on a way better team, and we looked up the stats and they were almost identical in total yards, touchdowns, all that. But I mean, that being said, obviously Kellen Mond is floating around the NFL. I think he's got a little more ability, but I wouldn't put him in the great college quarterback category.
All right, Ryan, what do you think trajectory of Jimbo is from here on out, Ryan?
That's a great question. And the stat I was looking up while you're talking about it, he has 2 10-win regular seasons in 11 years without Jameis Winston as his head coach. And he's playing in the ACC at the best football school in the ACC for a lot of these years. Winning 10 games should be the goal every year, to win 10 games. Yeah, I mean, I think so much of it does depend on like this season and how much they can keep the wheels on the track. And because of that he's going to have from the recruiting, if he can keep the guys on campus, enough talent to win, just beat a lot of teams with talent alone, I think. But if you start losing those guys and your defense isn't really good, it's probably not elite. A&M's defense hasn't been elite, but it's been really good. And then I just don't see how you're going to keep up. And I think a lot of it depends on what Brian Kelly does at LSU. Can Sam Pittman, sustain what he's done the last 2 years at Arkansas? Because right now, Arkansas definitely has had better teams the past few years, and there's nothing's easy in the SEC West. So, I don't see him. I think there's kind of, to Seth's point, he does get a lot of media hype, and I think there is kind of this consensus that A&M is going to become the second best program in the SEC West, like definitively, and I don't see that. I think they're going to be kind of middle of the pack, and in middle pack in the West, SEC West is still pretty good, but I don't see him taking it to the next level at A&M past just consistent 8-4, 9-3 seasons kind of.
Which is not what you're paying him for. When you're dishing out that much money, it's like, and you're seriously talking about, you could be the fourth best team in the West if you count in, maybe LSU gets it going, maybe Ole Miss, is pretty solid, like beat you out a couple years. Like
Mississippi State's good this year.
Arkansas, Mississippi State.
I think Mississippi State wins in Baton Rouge this weekend.
I bet so. I would think so. I don't know what's the line on what's the line on that game. LSU,
Mississippi State's like a field goal favorite, I think.
Really, it's not really surprising, I guess, but I actually think pretty highly of Mississippi State, and this will be a big like these early games are fun to watch. Just SEC, like it was fun to watch Arkansas go against the SEC team, especially one that wasn't like truly the best team in the conference, just to kind of size up, see what's going on, find out where you kind of lie. Because honestly, let's be honest, most of the games in conference aren't for like the division championship. Like there's only a few games that are really swing games in kind of deciding who wins the conference. So like Arkansas A&M and Arkansas Alabama, like those are two big ones to kind of see who's going to finish highest in the West. But it's fun to go against a conference opponent and just see where you stack up. Or for Tennessee, going up and facing a good team in Pitt that's, a strong program right now that's like had some good years, is used to winning. There's something to be said about a program that's like won a little bit, even if it's just in the year before, in the year prior. So, Ryan, what's the vibes on Vol Nation? How was the trip to Pitt? I assume, you were there in person, took a little trip through Morgantown. I saw. Very fun place to drive through. John Denver knew what he was talking about up there.
He did.
But yeah, just a little recap of the trip, view of the Vols. How are we looking?
Yeah, trip was a ton of fun. Like I said, very beautiful drive up through East Tennessee and Southwest Virginia, and then through West Virginia. And Pittsburgh was cool. Never been there. Got to go see PNC Park, which was awesome.
Nice.
On Friday night.
Walk across the bridge.
Yeah, right with the bridge, and just a beautiful, beautiful view. Saw I don't know if he's been on the program or not, but walked in, immediately saw Will Scott at Pirates game. So sat with him for a couple innings. Yeah, him and Ian Benny. But yeah, and then on to the game. It was, I've said this a couple times, and Keaton Slovis's injury certainly played a factor.
Yeah.
But outside of Georgia and Alabama, I don't know who could have gone on the road and play, or many teams that could have played as badly as Tennessee and beat a ranked team on the road. Tennessee did not play well. And I think some of that goes into, even with Slovis, I think Pitt was probably a little overranked. And then obviously they had to play Nick Patty or back up in the second half. But it's the fourth time in 5 years that Pat Narduzzi's faced off against Josh Heupel. And obviously Narduzzi's a defensive-minded head coach, was at Michigan State as their DC before he was at Pitt. Heupel's obviously an offensive guy, and that was the best Narduzzi's defense has ever played against a Heupel offense. They really had a lot of answers for him, but Tennessee's defense made enough plays. You even go in the first half, 2 turnovers that were absolutely massive. One took away points when Pitt was in the red zone, and another right before half where Tennessee really stole a field goal and took the lead. So for Tennessee's offense to play as poorly as they did and still win, I think was impressive. In some ways that Tennessee, I just don't know if Tennessee, for the game, I just wasn't sure if Tennessee had the capability to win a game like that. And obviously, again, it's easier for a defense to make big plays and get stops against the backup. But we've seen plenty of times where Tennessee's defense has struggled, with backups. You go back to Trayon Harris against Florida a couple of years ago. And this all-time historic one for the Vols fans, the 2001 SEC championship game when Matty Mock came in and just torched the Vols on the quarterback draw and kept them from going on and facing Miami in a national championship game. So a win at the end of the day, as we're talking about in a little bit with the Titans, you can play bad And if you get a win, it feels 1,000 times better, and the vibes are 1,000 times better than a loss. And that's even more the case in the college season when you got 12 games, and really on Tennessee's schedule, there's like 5 swing games. And anytime you can win any of those swing games, no matter how you do it, it's a success.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, that's the thing. People, as of right now, maybe some people are talking about that backup quarterback for Pitt was not good outside of that one throw in the end zone where I'm convinced he probably had his eyes closed and just prayed.
Just slung it.
But at the end of the season, it doesn't matter. Like, it's a ranked win. No one is even, I mean, maybe you remember it, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. Like, all Vol fans want to see is improvement. And if that's one of the biggest games on the schedule that was the swing game. Like, even if you chalk up kind of Bama and Georgia's losses, Pitt is in there with, Florida, Kentucky, maybe a couple other SEC games. I'm sure that you really want to win to just keep improving on the Heupel era. Like, I think, Shump, I don't know what your opinion is on this, but for me, it's just like, if he can kind of stacks wins each year, like wins one more than last year, I feel like obviously it's progress, but I feel like that would satisfy me as a Tennessee fan anyway. I don't know if everyone else feels the same, but that's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah, I'd agree. Like, I think the talent on this team's like 8-4, level of talent. And you look, there's 5 toss-up games that would, in my opinion, it's 3 games you said at LSU and at South Carolina, and maybe not toss-up games, but games that are, I think, could really go either way without being an upset. And you win 3 of them, that's 8-4. And certainly, I think you're capable of winning 4 of those games and going 9-3. And to me, there is a little sense of opportunity with the fact that you have Hendon Hooker and a good senior quarterback in Cedric Tillman, who, in my opinion, is the best receiver in the SEC. And sure, you would envision the defense getting better as you get more talent into the system and into the program, but that's not a given. It isn't. And I think it's hard for me not to see Tennessee taking a little bit of a step back next season just because you have to replace Hendon Hooker. So I think there is kind of a little bit sense of, yeah, let's be greedy. I mean, this is a team that's good enough to win 9 games. Why not be able to go out there and do it with a senior quarterback and a lot of returning guys on the offense, and 3 of those games being at home? So it's certainly, I think you're right. 8-4 to me wouldn't be disappointing, getting 1 game more, but I do certainly think there's like a sense of opportunity that you may not have for a couple of years. And again, I think the Florida game is a big part of that, because Tennessee's head coach, like, even as much as Tennessee struggled and early in your tenure, you'll have leeway. But at the end of the day, like, it's Florida, Georgia, Alabama. Those are the games that you're paid to win when you're a Tennessee head coach. And Georgia and Alabama are going to be really damn hard to beat anytime you see them. So to get Florida this year with Billy Napier at home, it just feels like, and a senior quarterback who's one of the best in the SEC, it just feels like a huge opportunity. And really, I think at the end of the year, a lot of how people view this season will come down to what happens in Knoxville on September 24th.
Dude, and I don't care how Anthony Richardson played this past week. He's gonna play like he's a Heisman when he comes to Knoxville. Like, he is.
Yeah. And it's just like all the running quarterbacks, ones that like weren't even huge running quarterbacks that Tennessee played last year, like torched them. Like Will Levis ran for way more yards in that game.
Like ran all over us, I feel like.
Yeah, dude, Stetson can scramble. I'll give it to him. Like, Stetson Bennett knows how to make some plays. I'm off the Stetson Bennett hate, and I don't think there's a lot anymore. I don't hate him, but
he's definitely not that mobile of a quarterback.
He can scamper.
Yeah, he can scamper against
he can scamper, but the problem is Anthony Richardson can do a lot more than scamper.
Oh yeah, correct.
It's the fact that Stetson, Will Levis, and Matt Corral, who was a better runner than both those guys, and I'm a huge Matt Corral guy, but those guys just torched, had their best run game, and Bryce Young last year. All 4 of those guys had their best rushing game in the season against Tennessee.
Dang, that's a stat.
It seems like a trend, though. So, like, some of that had to be attributed to Tennessee scheme-wise.
Yeah,
but they may have invited that a little bit more by trying, sometimes when you're under-talented a little bit, you have to overcompensate to certain areas of the game and you're just being susceptible. So it's kind of hard. I think Tennessee-Florida game, there are kind of some tier games to me. Like, that's what we were talking about. Like, there are certain games that establish like tiers of within the division, within the conference, everything. Like Tennessee, Florida this year is like a tier game to me. Like, one of them kind of needs this, like, it's going to differentiate who steps into like being in the higher tier of the conference. And you got to beat, and it also establishes like program tiers. Like in year one under a new coach, like Dan Mullen got fired because he was underperforming. Like Florida was bad. It's not like you just lost a coach, you know, you came off a national championship, he went to the NFL or something. Like you're replacing a coach because performance on the field was bad. So in year one of a program, a head coach in a program, they're coming to your building. You're in year 3. You're ranked in the top 15. Like that's the year you have to beat Florida. Like if you can't beat Florida in year one of a head coach at home with your senior quarterback, like you said, like you don't get many opportunities. That's what happens. You lose 15 straight because you miss 2 opportunities like that where they should be wins. Like if Tennessee is actually good, if Tennessee wants to be a true top team in the East, like they have to beat Florida at home. And it's Florida. It's kind of daunting. Like I see it as a little bit of an outsider because I see them more objectively, but to Tennessee fans, Florida is a giant. Like Florida's been so hard to beat for Tennessee, harder than anyone but Bama over the last 15 years. Because y'all have even beaten Georgia several times, like especially in the last.
Butch Jones beat Georgia twice, right?
Yeah. So it's just Florida's that kind of beast. It's kind of like that. It's like a scary thing for the Vols to kind of vanquish. And you kind of thought they broke it open in like 2016, whenever they had the 38 in a row. I'll never forget that John Reed video. 11 in a row, 38 in a row. Oh, that was epic. And that's when can you just believe, like, if I'd asked you trajectory of the Tennessee football program after the Florida Georgia week, what you're saying Butch Jones wins natties at Tennessee, legitimately, right?
Everyone. Well, the Texas A&M game is what made us crumble that year when Alvin Kamara had 300 yards, but we had about 5 turnovers that game, lost in double overtime or something. Like was it? It was 7 turnovers.
7 turnovers, and the game went in overtime.
Oh wow. God, yeah, that and that's we even had the peanut punch to out and right next to the end zone. You think when things like that happen, okay, this is the Cinderella season. This is when the ball starts bouncing our way. It's a natty.
Like a 38-yard field goal to win too for the game to go to overtime.
Yeah.
And didn't Dobbs, wasn't that, it was a bad interception that he threw. Wasn't it on like first down or something? Or am I imagining that?
So. I think it was like the first play of second overtime.
Yeah.
Well, first play of Tennessee having the ball. I think A&M had already scored a touchdown.
Yeah. It was just over like that. I was like, are you kidding me?
I don't know if you remember this, Will. I was at y'all's house watching that game.
Yeah. Yeah. That's funny. I forgot about that.
Oh,
Dang.
Anyway,
gotta
beat Tennessee. Gotta beat Gators at home. But yeah, you win that game. I don't really know Tennessee's schedule super well, but I mean, you win that game and you're. Who are they playing this week? It's at
Akron.
The
biggest amount of points we've ever been favorites by. I think it's minus 50. I want to say.
Sort of opened that. Yeah.
That's
minus 50. So that's the highest point differential Vols have ever had in their history.
Yeah. So you win that one. You beat Florida. What are you, 5-0, 4-0?
4-0 by week.
4-0, and you've already beaten Pitt and Florida, and it's like, all right, this season has in a season that you thought had possibility, it has real possibility at that point. And then it's an 8-game season again, with some tough games in there.
We'll be in the top 10 at that point, I think. Because, 15 right now, right?
Yeah. Arkansas is kind of sitting in a very, very similar spot. They got A&M in 2 weeks. And if they can beat A&M, they will have already won. They'd be 2-0. They'd be 4-0, 2 wins in the SEC, and a win over a ranked Cincinnati squad. And that'd just be a really – then you have all this preseason expectation, and we as fans have even more on our particular teams. And then you actually start 4-0, and it's like, all right, like, let's get serious. Like, we're a top 10 team in the nation. We got Bama coming to town. Like, let's get real serious real quick. And that's so exciting. It's so incredible to see in year 3 of Sam Pittman. My goodness, he works fast. My God, he works fast. In 3 years at Arkansas, we've been ranked in the top 10 in 2 of those years. Arkansas had not won an SEC game in 2 years before he got to this program.
Oh, I'm aware.
We were on the brink of death. And now we're in the top
should have
10.
been relegated at that point.
Hey, no, I had an idea while we were talking about earlier. What if we college football as a community, we ostracized Alabama and Georgia? We did a backwards like we relegated them upwards, and we said no, y'all have your
them pro teams.
Yeah, y'all go.
Y'all play each other 12 times a year, and
we're deciding our champion. The people's champion is the rest of everybody. Like, yeah, all right, y'all have kind of leveled up. Yeah, you have leveled up. What if there was like a Champions League, and so like you win, you win
the Natty and you get to move up?
Yeah. So now it's like Florida, or Georgia, Alabama, I don't know, Ohio State, Clemson, and they're just in their own little Champions League. Yeah, 14 league. Go have your fun and play the people's champion. You play the other teams. They get to decide who gets to face the conquerors. But I don't know. It would make it a little more exciting. Although Arkansas has finally reached elite level, like pretty much like already on that stage. I would say like 2-time, at least kind of 2 or 3-time national champs. But I pretty much say we're right there on par with Georgia and Alabama, and the nation will see that on October 1st. Not only are we on par with Alabama, we're 2 touchdowns better than Alabama. And
is that
as a
before
program,
or after? Is that before or after equating you in the building?
that's after.
Okay.
We're only a 10-point favorite if I'm elsewhere, but if I'm in Donald W. Reynolds, that's 2 touchdown favorite.
No, we do have to give you props. We'll move in, I guess, the last college game.
Yeah, let's give me props
before we do a little NFL talk and then come back around to college. We do have to give Seth some props because he did talk all about how Notre Dame was not good. And we argued, we said they played Ohio State. I mean, they played them tough, so they're probably pretty good again.
Good.
Not the case. Well, they were straight dog water against Marshall. I didn't even really watch the game, and then I go, oh my gosh, they're like losing, and I turn it on, and they throw that pick 6 to Marshall. I mean,
that was crazy.
And I kind of hate it because I like this Marcus Freeman guy, and I mean, maybe he still can turn it around, but that's a tough look, man, right off the bat.
Yeah. And let's be real. I didn't necessarily predict them losing to Marshall. I did not go that far. I didn't even really think that far. But I did recognize, because I have eyes and a brain, that Notre Dame was not very impressive. Like, no, Ohio State's defense was giving up like the last thing I remember of Ohio State's defense is them giving up like 700 rushing yards to Michigan in the last game. Like, their defense was a sieve. They were giving up like 40 to 50 points a game. And then against Utah, they gave up, I don't know how much. That game was 45. A crazy shootout. And yeah, you got a different defensive coordinator and everything, but it's week 1 still. You're not going to be that cohesive of a unit. And they looked just like the 85 Bears against Notre Dame's offense. And I think it was way more of a testament to just Notre Dame was just bad. And that's exactly what I said. I said, I'm going to be really frustrated when Notre Dame is still a top 10 team in the country, when all that they've put on tape after being previously overhyped, when all that they've put on tape is a pathetic offense and like a loss by double digits. Like, that's all that they've done in the season. That's all their body of work. Because you just think Ohio State's so great, you're going to value that over anything else. So what did they do? They moved down to 8th. All that they've done in the year, they've done, because preseason rankings we know are just so volatile. Like nothing really is, everything's wrong pretty much. But just because, their preseason expectation is number 5, and all they do is lose a game, and now they're just number 8 in the country. That's just insane media bias. First of all, like, true, like, that doesn't happen. A team, first of all, Notre Dame wasn't even that good last year. They were pretty good. They had a pretty good record, but they lost their head coach. Their offense wasn't anything special. They got beaten by 2 touchdowns to Cincinnati, like one of the better teams they played at home. Like, to lose by 2 touchdowns at home to Cincinnati, like, you're not that good. Anyway, it was just unreasonable that ranked number 5. I saw it with my own eyes. I said, look, you're giving them props for losing by double digits. They're just not very good. Like, they're just purely not good, and they're going to stay in the top 10 after losing. And look what happened. I mean, it just worked itself out. So I didn't have to worry too much about it. I don't gotta bicker about it for a while, but Yeah, I did not predict them to lose to Marshall. Just what a win for the herd.
Thundering Herd. I love
That's
seeing
awesome.
Notre Dame lose. Yeah.
Are they still ranked?
I hope.
I don't think so.
I hope. If they were still ranked after starting 0-2, I would actually start. I would like short circuit. That's actually like I can't even think what I would do. That would make me so not even mad because I don't care. It's just stupid. It's just dumb. It's just purely wrong.
Well, maybe it was A&M is still like
A&M's
ranked or something.
24.
Yeah, A&M's 24.
We're gonna get another
24
ranked
Notre
win
Dame.
next week. That's awesome. See, that's stupid too. All they've done is be very just because you thought they were going to be the 6th best team in the country. All they've done is look pretty mediocre against Sam Houston State and get manhandled by Appalachian State. And they're not. Oh my god, frustrating.
Mississippi State's. I'm looking at I've seen the 8 people, but I hadn't seen the other receiving votes. Mississippi State's 31st. I don't get that. I don't see who the 30 teams they think are better than Mississippi State is.
Well, Texas A&M they think is better.
State. Yeah, and I mean, I will give the voters some credit. Like 26 on here is Marshall, and 20 is Appalachian State. So they gave love to the teams who pulled the upsets, but I don't know.
See, even the Appalachian State one to me is like their body of work. They're 1-1. They gave up 60. They just because they beat A&M doesn't dismiss the fact that they gave up 60 points to North Carolina. It's a great
problem
win.
with the preseason rankings.
Yeah, that isn't to rebuttal that point, but I'll tell you this much: Drake May made my favorite quarterback in the country. That guy
he's good.
He's good. He didn't
I agree.
I watched a lot of that App State game, and obviously 63 points, put up big numbers. But I mean, he made some big time throws into some tight windows. I mean, he's impressive. I like him a lot.
That's an interesting North Carolina family legacy now with 2 sports.
That is.
You don't often see that. Like sometimes you'll see, several brothers play somewhere, play basketball, or all play football out of school. But like you rarely see one guy play basketball, one guy play football, and at a high level at a school like North Carolina.
Yeah,
like to be one of the stars on their basketball team, and then your brother's the starting quarterback or whatever. I guess they are brothers, right?
Yeah,
they're not like cousins or something.
No, they're brothers.
Nice. That's cool. Shout out.
Hit a game-winning shot to beat Kentucky and go to the Final Four.
That was big time.
And now be quarterback, and I don't know, probably jumping the gun, but chance to be a first round draft pick in a couple of years potentially. Like,
I mean, he looks the part so far.
Pretty big time family genes right there.
Yeah. What did who did North Carolina play this last week?
Georgia State.
They played Georgia State.
They almost lost to Georgia State again.
Yeah, 35-28, right?
Nice.
Yeah.
Mac Brown just knows how to win, though, baby. He just knows how to win.
How about North Carolina State playing in Boone and historic Turner Field on the road their first 2 weeks?
Yeah.
At App State. I mean, who's doing the scheduling?
I was talking to Douglas Valentine, who's a big Tar Heel fan, and
that actually is insane.
He was like, I think it was just supposed to maybe look kind of better because there were road games, and I'm like, yeah, but it's App State and Georgia State. Like, I don't think being on the road necessarily.
That's a lose-lose situation. Like,
yeah,
that is not a winning situation for anybody involved. What
like,
I think
State,
is,
I guess they're just trying to like be nice. In-state school, we'll get big game. You'll be able to sell a lot of tickets. Sure, like that still seems like a bad idea in my opinion, especially to play a team as good as App State on the road. But like, I mean, if I'm Mac Brown, I'm going into the freaking president's office and saying, fire the freaking AD. Maybe play a group of 5 games on the road to start the season. That's ridiculous.
That is absolutely ridiculous. My favorite part of college football, though, and I mean, I guess basketball too, but buy games that get when you lose and it comes out, it's like A&M paid Appalachian State $1.5 million to come play this game, and they hand them an embarrassing L, and like that just sucks. I mean, we're gonna get to the Huskers soon. R.I.P. the Scott Frost era.
Yeah, before we do that, we'll hop into a little NFL. I guess we can kick it off. Actually, let's talk. I will say this. It looks like I'm going to beat Seth in fantasy this week. Really, Seth, he caught a bad break on a bunch of guys. But
yeah, my team, even though they had decent stats, some of them, no one scored a touchdown. Like just zero touchdowns on my whole team. I mean, Lamar Jackson had a few.
I
But
don't
even
have
he
many
only had
either,
like
though.
20 points. Oh my gosh. Yeah, it was like, wow, these, several guys had like 7 or 8 catches and no touchdowns. That's like almost hard to, it doesn't happen that often. It's frustrating.
That's why I had Joe
Just
Mixon
like the Titans, just underwhelming, disappointing, frustrating performances all around.
Yeah,
But
let's
it's
hop
week
into
one.
the Titans.
Yeah, gotta talk Titans.
Yeah, I mean, I was there.
Brutal.
It was disgusting. Titans get up. I mean, 13-0, and you're feeling pretty good. I wasn't counting my chickens or anything just yet, but I mean, you think 13-0 defense, you're feeling pretty good.
defense
Giants
looked
don't look that
great.
good.
The defense was
We talked
sacking
about this
everyone.
before. What?
The
Through
defense was
the
just
first half, our defense was dominating. Big Jeff with what do you
Yeah.
have? 2 or 3 sacks, the forced fumble in the first half. My goodness, we look good. But yeah, 13 was not enough. We need to step on the gas.
Yeah, and even when the Giants get down there and you catch a break, you muff a punt and then you catch a break because you make a play and intercept in the end zone, you basically wipe that mistake away, and you still just give them a chance to get in. And my whole thing, I said this before we got on, it seems like this is such a recurring theme with the Titans. We refuse to just step on their throats. We get up and are content with just being up by a couple scores where, I mean, you're totally susceptible to someone coming back on you. And I'm personally blaming Todd Downing. I don't think the play calls are there. I mean, we kind of said it, Seth, in one of our group texts. No one on the offense really played that bad. I mean, it seemed like everyone played okay.
well.
Yeah.
Tannehill played well,
we
but he also missed a few he missed a few short throws on critical downs, or when we could have extended. You're kind of talking about extending the lead. Like, that's when I felt like he faltered a little bit on a few, because that's all it takes is a few third down throws to be bad, and it kills drives. And because that's how the Titans offense is set up. It's so boring, and they want to get you in like 3rd and 4 or 3rd and 3. Like, that's where they want to be, and you got to hit those throws.
And that's what they did.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Like, when your whole offense is predicated on not getting first downs, but getting yourself in the 3rd and short, the 3rd and 5, and you do that, and you're terrible on 3rd downs, like, it's not good. It's bad. It's bad when that's exactly what happened. Titans were terrible in those downs, and
Terrible.
Todd Downing, very bad. I think there's any doubt about that. The jet sweep or the tight end reverse.
Oh,
was
that
awful.
was the worst. That was the worst play call of the night.
As bad as that was, I'm sure I'll give this one the edge. But when we, again, 10-0, you get a touchdown, the game's probably not over, but it feels like with how good as your defense playing, you go up by 3 scores in the second quarter, the game's basically over. And you have them 2nd and 6 in the red zone, and you're running 13 personnel with Cody Hollister on the field on 2nd and 3rd downs. That's inexcusable. Throwing a rollout to Derrick Henry 3 yards short of the sticks on 3rd down. Like, that's just that made me just as mad as the quick tight end reverse. Like that. Treylon Burks, I mean, you trade A.J. Brown, and I thought Treylon Burks played well when he was in, but Treylon Burks is playing 17 snaps. 17 snaps. He can't play. He's not on the field over NWI on a game-winning drive, really. Like, that's – I don't know if that's what you blame Treylon Burks for that. I don't know if you blame the coaches for that, but that's ridiculous. Like, that can't happen. And, again, I thought Treylon Burks played well when he was in. But when it goes into a bigger issue with the Titans and some – general manager moves, to me, it looks a lot like the Cubs. I just can't figure out what the Titans are trying to do. If they're trying to rebuild, if they're trying to be good now, because if you're paying, the Titans are going all in and paying these defensive guys while rebuilding their offense, and that's just the most flawed logic I've ever heard. Because you're not going to get a good quarterback in for many years. You're not going to have a quarterback who can be at a high level Super Bowl winning place in many years. You're punting on being even good on offense when you trade A.J. Brown, when you won't pay the best receiver in franchise history. And I'll go to my grave saying, if you didn't have the money for him, you shouldn't have re-signed Harold Landry, because you already gave Bud Dupree big money, and you got to give Jeffrey Simmons big money. It just makes no sense. These moves make no sense. And John Robinson, he's done a lot of good things as the Titans GM, but it's just been a bad decision after bad decision and contradictory decision after contradictory decision the last 2 years.
I think that's what's bothered me the most, is just how contradictory it's all been. No, yeah, I mean, you said it all. I can't really add anything to it, because that's it. But that's what's bothered me so much. I never really thought about it until now. But yeah, I don't That's a very good way to kind of put it with this roster. I have no clue if we're rebuilding or if we're trying to win now, because now you really are in that middle ground where it's like we're kind of good. Like we have an elite defense, but offense is like a bunch of who is that besides Derrick Henry, obviously. But yeah, I mean, it's frustrating for sure.
It's like the Bears a few years ago when they went all in on Khalil Mack. And granted, I mean, that made more sense because they thought they had their quarterback. Like, I understood that logic. They're going to build with Mitch. They're going to have a really good defense. The offense will get better and catch up. But the Titans aren't even at that stage where they're in the rebuilding with the offense. They don't have the rookie quarterback. And by the time the offense is good, all the guys that you just gave big money on defense are going to be aging and not good. And it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah. This is going to be a tough one for me to really say. But we might have missed our window. Like last year was a Super Bowl on a golden platter for the Tennessee Titans. I'm not kidding. Like that was.
No, I mean that was our best shot.
I mean that was our best shot, but I don't think you can ever say the words Super Bowl and golden platter in the same sentence.
Is it ever going to be easier to like? Are we ever going to have an easier path to win the Super Bowl?
You had to beat. You had one game to win to get to an AFC Championship game at home, and you played a Bengals team whose offensive line was so.
I mean, we murdered them.
The Titans' defensive line was just so much better. I mean, there was no answers. It just goes back to all last year was so frustrating when Derrick Henry and A.J. Brown were out. Those games, and again, Tannehill played fine yesterday. You know, he wasn't the problem yesterday, so I don't want to bash on him. But you just don't turn the ball over in those games down the stretch. You just win all those games. The Steelers game, the Texans game. You win those games. And then obviously the freaking Bengals, you had 9 sacks and you didn't win. I mean, it's mind-boggling. And yeah, I mean, to Steph's point, who knows if they beat the Chiefs in the AFC Championship game, but you had to beat a team that you were better than at home to have a home AFC Championship game. And to Steph's point, the Titans aren't ever going to have a better path than that.
Like, we're not going to – we could win we still are the favorite to win the AFC South, in my opinion. I mean, what an absolute dumpster fire of a division. So we should still win the AFC South. I believe that. I think we are the best team, which is
9 or 10 wins wins the division.
I think. Yeah, you just go 5-1 versus other terrible teams, and you're just in the driver's seat to win the division. Like, win all the games at home. If you can't beat the Jags, Texans, and Colts at home, and then win 2 out of 3 on the road, like that's not unfeasible to do. Even going like 4-2 just puts you way ahead in the division. So you win that and you host a playoff game, but just like it's going to be hard. Winning the AFC was no small feat. To do that and clinch home field advantage, like we're just not going to have home field advantage very often. And you kind of you said Ryan Tannehill didn't play bad, and yeah, that's fair. But I think that's where we get caught in the Ryan Tannehill like era very often is like, yeah, Ryan Tannehill, maybe he wasn't the problem, but he also like could have led us to get up by 20 points or more. Like, you know, he's still the quarterback on those drives when we don't score. And he made some bad throw. He threw a few short. It was the short throws that he threw almost in the ground that were worrisome to me. Like he's I don't know. He wasn't bad, didn't throw any interceptions. And like, that's what we really ask him to do. That's what we ask him to do, which I think we're all pointing back to last season's frustrations too. Cause that if he had that game he had Sunday, we were playing for the AFC Championship last season. Like if he just has a pretty good mediocre game, we're winning that game. Like probably by, 10 points or something. But unfortunately, he threw 3 interceptions. So Tannehill kind of did what you asked him to do. Yeah, don't make mistakes, make some plays. He had a few good plays on his feet. That first down he got outside the pocket was awesome. Yeah. Like that is a play that not many quarterbacks in the NFL make, and that can help you extend drives. And that's honestly when he's always been kind of the most fluid in our offense is when he is using his legs a little more often. I think it really might help him kind of, I don't know, just get in kind of the rhythm of the game a little bit more to get down, get running. And he's effective. He's very effective when he runs. Yeah, Downing is disappointing because he was the problem, like even bigger than Tannehill in that championship game. Yes, Tannehill's the one that actually threw 3 interceptions, but and I've said it before on here, the video of the Cincinnati players talking about how they knew what was going on is the biggest inadequacy you can ever have as an offensive coach. Like if the players on the field in live time know what you are about to run, you are broken offensively. Like your offensive system does not work unless you are the greatest. Like, yeah, unless you're the greatest offensive line ever and you're saying, yeah, they're running a gap and we cannot stop it. Like if you know what the other team is running, like Todd Downing put Tannehill, who's not really in a position to really overcome bad coaching, bad situational coaching. You put him in a bad situation, yeah, it's gonna end up in bad results. And so it's a combination of frustrating factors. You feel like the best players aren't playing the most snaps, and that's one thing I hope can get corrected. Because you saw how effective the rookie wide receivers were, and even Treylon Burks got five targets. He had 3 receptions. One pass that could have been a pass interference, absolutely, where a guy
got tackled.
Essentially took his legs out on a deep ball where he had big separation, where that was impressive. Like he easily separated from that corner, and really, Tannehill didn't give him a chance on the ball in the end zone either. That was technically a target, but not really catchable. And Kyle Phillips looked good. Now he muffed that punt, but other than that, had a really strong game. And then, yeah, you see guys like Westbrook-Ikhine made a great catch across the middle, but that was the only impact he was on the game. I mean, that's your starting wide receiver. Like put Treylon in, like at least he's a threat to make a play. And I think that evolves. I always kind of said that. I figured Treylon Burks would be kind of our true number 1 receiver as the season progresses. I just think in games, the talent comes out, like the cream rises to the crop. Robert Woods was a little underwhelming. Austin Hooper, a little underwhelming. But target him. God, like target Austin Hooper instead of targeting Jeff Swaim. We threw like 5 passes to Jeff Swaim, who is the most ineffective receiver on the face. Like oh my God, like I cannot believe we were targeted. He just looks so inept. And yeah, he probably is a good blocking tight end because he's huge and can't move, which makes him a terrible receiver. Oh my, it's so frustrating. Like you drafted Chig, a playmaker at tight end. You signed Austin Hooper, and then who got the most reps at tight end and who got the most passes and targets at tight end? Jeff Swaim. Are you kidding me? Like that is coaching malpractice. That is pathetic coaching. Oh
yeah, that was one of the biggest question marks for me as well.
Like what?
4 targets for the 2 starting receivers, 2 for Robert Woods and 2 for Westbrook-Ikhine.
Your third tight end, your third best pass catching tight end has as many targets as your starting 2 receivers. You have a problem. Like that is an issue. And that's an issue with coaching. That is 100% an issue with coaching. Dontrell Hilliard scored 2 touchdowns on 11 snaps and you only play him 11 snaps. Like uber productive. He dropped 1 pass. He did drop 1 third down catch, but he probably wasn't getting the first down. He might have got the first down. But still just uber productive, and you only play him use that guy more. Like you obviously trust him in the just so and still had a chance to win. Like we have even the end is coaching. Even the end just blows my brains. It blows my mind how inept we were in the end of that game. Because after all that, it doesn't matter. You have a drive to win the game, decent drive down, really good play to Kyle Phillips. You've put yourself in good position, but you still have time on the clock and a timeout. Well, you almost get a delay of game. Like, what are we doing? Get to the line and let's go. Like, yeah, you are in field goal range, but it's like this. Anything can happen. Like, let's go. Let's punch in another 10 yards. Let's take a shot at the end zone. Why not? Like,
that's
they're not even really
thinking
about the end zone. Throw a deep ball, jump ball, not a jump ball, but throw a deep ball to Treylon. Let him maybe make a play. Or throw it, where no one can catch it, and then
get closer. Like that was my thing. I was
go get another 10 yards and call timeout. They blew their last timeout.
They should have eaten the delay game because it's NFL. It's a 5-yard penalty. You had 18 seconds and a timeout. If you had the timeout in 18 seconds, you could run 2 more plays. You should be betting on yourself to get 5 yards in 2 plays. Yeah. And then you just handicapped yourself, and then you ran a play to set up the field goal in which you lost 3 yards.
You lost 3 or 4 yards. Are you kidding me?
See, I couldn't even see that. And then you end up
that kick is like 44 yards. Maybe that squeezes in. Like that kick was pretty close. Maybe it's just a little bit like you run. calling a timeout to run that play and then spiking the ball to lose another yard was just the most asinine thing I've seen in a long time. And, like Vrabel has done, we've won a lot of close games. Like that's not really been the Titans' issue, but it was just so deflating to just be leading that game 59 minutes, them take a lead on a 2-point conversion on which there was a pretty blatant missed holding call. And who is number 53, Cole? How is he out there with the game on the line? Are we that bad? Like, is that? No, I'm dead serious. Like, is our personnel that bad?
I had linebacker. You have 2 backup linebackers hurt, so I think it was like a goal line formation, and you have both the backup linebackers aren't playing right now. So yeah, I think behind David Long and Zach Cunningham, who was awful. I cannot express how bad Zach Cunningham was in that game yesterday. The linebackers behind those 2 guys are pretty short end of the stick.
Well, it was awful. And Saquon is a beast. Like,
Saquon's back.
He's back.
Yeah, no, Saquon looked. That was one thing I took from the game was like Saquon is legit. Like he is back. Like he looks really good, which is encouraging. Honestly, like, yeah, I wanted to win the game, but you want to see guys who are that high level of players like be healthy and play well. So it was fun to watch like us play against him. But there was a pretty big hold there on. Now, would he have made the tackle short of the goal line? I don't know, maybe. But Cole took out David Long coming for it was just such bad position. Like just so frustrating. Good thing we get 16 more chances. I mean, let's be honest. The preseason, like it's 3 games and the starters don't even really play. Like Tannehill didn't play a preseason game. Like they literally actually have not played. So I'm not going to get too up in arms. It's just a huge wasted opportunity on a tough schedule.
Yeah.
I think that's really the worst part. We kind of said that before we started taping here, but, giving up an opportunity like that against a pretty weak opponent. Now, I mean, honestly, I don't see anything stopping the Giants from competing in the NFC East. I don't see a team that's going to run away with that division. Dak's hurt.
Prescott
I mean, the Carson Wentz, I mean, that can't go well. And the Eagles should be pretty strong, I guess. I don't know, maybe. I mean, all they did was barely beat Detroit. So I'm not going to get too carried away with them. But Giants can be pretty decent, but long season. Just really, really a bummer. Overall, a bummer to just come off such a frustrating and long offseason and just have a just bizarre loss that you never should have lost. Like you just should not have lost. You're up 13-0, and with multiple chances to pull ahead farther than that, you got to do it. Like you got to, because we saw it. Pretty much 2 plays got them back in that game. One really long run and one bomb pass play that was just kind of blown. But at the same time, like I can't even fault. Like, I mean, I can fault Fulton. Like that stuff does happen, But I mean, I will say the most fault Fulton. It was his fault.
The most Titans thing ever would be just to go into Buffalo on Monday and win. So
yeah, and I'm not ruling that out for sure. Because I mean, they're coming off like the NFL's so up and down. Like you just hit on a few. I don't know. Your schemes kind of fit better that day, and you could, obviously we have talented players. We got a good defense, so we can stay in the game and make a few more plays offensively. Henry it'd be nice to see him bust one long.
Yeah.
We haven't seen that since he came back from injury. I'm not saying it's because he's not. He looked pretty strong. I thought he ran pretty well for first action. Like him not having a preseason is different too. Like he's not. I mean, it's been a while, and he only played 1 game after injury. And then, a long off season of, I don't know, just different. He's getting into it and not everything, but I think the Titans will be all right. I think that's why it's the most frustrating is because I think they should be still pretty good just because of our defense and enough talent on offense. And you have Derrick Henry. I mean, you should like that does go for something in your offense. And there's enough people to make plays on the outside, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's my concern.
Yeah. Shum, give us your final thoughts on the game, and then if you want to push anything you got coming out soon, let us know where we can find your stuff. But yeah, if you have any final thoughts on the Titans game, let us know, and then we'll let you get on out of here.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing I was going to hit on, and Seth led us to it, was how bad I thought taking the timeout instead of eating the delay game was. But yeah, I mean, I think with the Titans as a whole, like how quickly can Treylon Burks and Kyle Phillips get a lot better? Because right now, like the current state of the Titans receiver core, to me, it's like a bottom 5 receiver core in the NFL. Now, it could quickly play itself, I think, into the middle of the pack if those two guys develop and have good seasons. But that's the big question. And there's just not a lot of, just like the stat they showed at the game, the stat that we've seen all offseason, like there's just not many guys that have caught passes from Ryan Tannehill in this offense. So it's going to be a lot different. Hopefully they'll turn around. Like I said, it'd be very Titans to win this Monday. And if not after that, I mean, you got 4 games after that: Raiders, Colts, football team, Commanders, not the football team, Commanders, and then Colts again. I mean, all 4 of those games are winnable. And those Colts games are the biggest of the year. I mean, as they typically are. So we'll see. I'm not punting it in by any means yet, but certainly a frustrating one. And yeah, find all my work over at RockyTopInsider.com, Rocky Top Insider on all socials, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok now, even though I can't say I've ever been on the I'm not running the show on the RTI TikTok account, but we got one. And yeah, plenty of stuff from Pitt, kind of looking at that game and then stuff moving on. You know, we'll have stuff looking at Akron this week as the 50-point spread says. I don't expect that to be too much. And then it'll be a crazy train in Knoxville next week as the Gators come to town.
You think,
awesome.
What do you think the opening spread on Florida, Tennessee will be? And what's your tentative kind of prediction there?
Yeah, I think Tennessee will be like a 3-point favorite. And I don't know.
I think they'll be high. I think it'll be 5.
It'll be
to
me. It'll be somewhere from like a field goal to less than a touchdown.
Yeah, that's all right.
And I don't know. I'm kind of I'm going to see Tennessee beat Florida on a little bit more regular basis before I pick them, unless Tennessee is just a lot better, which I think they are better, but not by a lot. And I still think there's a lot of questions about Tennessee's defense and their offensive line as a whole. Like, I think there's a lot of similarities. I've seen a lot of people compare Arkansas and Tennessee, and I think it's probably an obvious comparison. New coaches and stuff good on offense, but like that's what's been so impressive to me about Arkansas and Sam Pittman. Like, it's a football in the SEC. It's a line of scrimmage game, and like Tennessee's doing a lot of stuff to be good outside. Like, we're not very good on the line of scrimmage, and Tennessee's able to scheme some stuff and be successful in spite of that. Arkansas is good on both lines of scrimmage. They're big time physicality. I mean, they can. And to me, if you're really going to beat the really good teams, the very top teams in the league, you got to have that. So that's kind of a long meandering, me touching on a lot of different subjects, but that's what we got, and should be a fun football season.
Heck yeah, Shump, thanks for coming on, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, always enjoy it, and I'll have to tune in after this and hear Will's thoughts on the Huskers.
Oh, heck yeah.
There'll be plenty.
We're getting into it.
Yeah.
Oh man, this is about to get. I'm gonna have to turn on some sad music.
Yeah.
Maybe not though. I don't know the
crack
vibes.
Open an energy drink, put on a pot of coffee. It's time to get into the good stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot to say. We're getting into it. Yeah. Yeah. Here we go.
All right. See you guys.
Thanks, Sean.
All right, boys. I imagine our hardcore listeners have been waiting for this.
Yeah.
So in case you were under a rock this past weekend, my Nebraska Cornhuskers lost a heartbreaker to Georgia Southern in just awful fashion. Most yards ever given up at Memorial Stadium, I believe. I don't want to say ever, maybe to like honestly, maybe ever, which is crazy to say. Also broke a couple other records. The Huskers were undefeated when scoring 35 plus at Memorial Stadium. It was like 114-0 or something crazy like that. Offense looked good. We'll give them that. Casey Thompson, yeah, he's pretty good. We got some good receivers. Anthony Grant keeps running for over 100 yards. So we got some players, but nonetheless, I mean, Georgia Southern punted one time. That was it. They threw 2 picks, so that was all we had. And I'll tell you what, one thing, no one's really asked me yet, but maybe a good question would have been like, if Nebraska pulls that out, like if they win 45-42 or 49-45 or whatever, is Frost still fired? And I have to think yes, honestly. Like, I think, no, I think so. I think because apparently there's rumors out here that the coaching search started a couple weeks ago after that loss to Northwestern. So I think a game that was pretty close to North Dakota. I mean, you kind of scored trash touchdowns to extend the lead and make it look good on paper. And then you come out and just make Georgia Southern look like Ohio State playing offense against you. I mean, it was disgusting to watch. Chairs were thrown. I had to apologize to my wife for just overreacting to this stupid game I love. But no, I mean, there's a lot to get into. I might even just have y'all ask me some questions because I don't even know where to begin. But I will say this just to start it off. I still love Scott Frost. I think there's a lot of Husker fans that love Scott Frost. And when you look at it from the beginning, it made so much sense to hire the guy. I mean, he's super hot, hometown guy. And I think that's what makes it really tough on guys, because I've heard some Tennessee fans compare it. Hey, it'd be like if we hired Peyton Manning and he came and did a bad job. It's almost even worse because Scott Frost is like born and raised, went from Wood River, Nebraska. His parents coached at the school and everything. He grew up going to that university, ends up actually going to Stanford, transferring back. The prodigal son returns, wins a national championship, is just what Nebraska is all about. And for whatever reason, it just didn't work out. And it was time to cut ties. I mean, obviously, even the most Scott Frost, whatever you want to call it, the most pro Scott Frost fans of the Huskers even had to obviously be like, all right, yeah, time to go. It's not going to work. There's a whole thing about, hey, you could have saved $7.5 million if you waited till October 1st. Yeah, I get it. It's $7.5 million, but it really doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. Like, yeah, that sounds like a lot of money, but obviously, like, if they're willing to do that and they're about to go give whatever next coach probably a blank check, like, it really was not a big deal. And I saw that not everyone was saying it, but there was very mixed opinions on that. And that was not a concern of mine. Like, let's go ahead. Let's see if we can salvage somewhat of a season or get some kind of momentum going. Just get it out, start fresh right now, and start looking for a coach. Be the first one on the block. So y'all can give your thoughts or ask me some questions. I can go into kind of my short list here in a second. But yeah, y'all's thoughts.
I mean, yeah, I texted you, Will, like, is Frost gone that Saturday night after they lost, and you were pretty certain about it. And I was already talking about Frost being gone after this year. I didn't think it was going to be this quick, but I was talking about potentially Urban Meyer showing up, who I still think, I think he's your guy. I don't know if Nebraska will actually hire him or not, but yeah, quick thoughts on, you can go into your short list here in a little bit, but I mean, we talked about it a little bit, but do you think there is any way Urban Meyer could end up at the University of Nebraska?
Yeah, like I said, we'll get into it. The problem is Trev Alberts, the AD, the first thing they asked him about was what's he looking for in a coach. And the first word that came out of his mouth was character. So I feel like that kind of keeps Urban out. Here's what I said, because I was talking to my dad about this and everything. And he's like, dude, I don't want that. That's too much baggage. He's slimy. He's sleazy. He's not really what we represent. And I get that. But if you told me that Urban Meyer was coming to Nebraska, I would not be upset. And this is what I heard a couple writers talking about on a podcast I was listening to.
People are writing about it.
Huh?
People, like, I've already seen multiple.
Oh, yeah. No. And so here's the thing. They put this out. They said, say Urban Meyer comes. Year one, yeah, might be rough just because, the Husk, we're not good. So who knows what year one would look like. But they said if Urban Meyer didn't win 9 games in year 2, wouldn't you be pretty surprised? And I was like, I mean, yeah. I mean, the guy wins everywhere, even at Utah and Bowling Green and stuff. Like, if nothing else,
everywhere.
I know people are mad about his behavior and stuff. The guy's going to get some recruits coming in, and the guy knows how to win. And here's the biggest thing that people want to talk about: is Nebraska still an attractive position? You're in probably the friendliest division of the 2 premier conferences to really jump up and win as quickly as possible compared to the rest. Like, you're not doing that in the SEC West. Obviously, you're not doing in the SEC East. Big Ten East obviously is the same. I mean, you have Michigan, Michigan State, Ohio State, Penn State all over there. The West is wide open. Like, you would get paid a ton of money And if you just, I mean, Nebraska can still win some Big Ten games this year. That's the thing. I mean, you look at freaking Iowa, they have 1 touchdown in 2 games. Wisconsin just lost to Washington State. Northwestern just got manhandled by Duke. Those are the teams you're talking about at the top of the list. Maybe Minnesota as well. I mean, come on.
Yeah. Like, what are the vibes around Nebraska football? And it's kind of a 2-part question.
Yeah, how does this season finish out?
This kind of feels like a sad, like Old Yeller or something. Like Scott Frost was like he was like the golden retriever, you know, just perfect for the family. You know, thought he was, but he's not. Well, I don't know. I don't know if that's a good metaphor, but it's just like putting down your favorite. Like, you wanted Scott Frost to win so bad, and everyone thought he would. And yeah, he wasn't just a hot name for Nebraska. He was a hot name at every school across the country. Like, everyone wanted Scott Frost to be their head coach.
Florida wanted him.
Yeah, and Nebraska got him, and he's their chosen son, kind of like you said. And kind of, because this is not my belief, I still believe Nebraska is a very proud program. Like, there's fan base shows it every week that they have a lot of pride in their football team. So that to me tells me that they will return to like being real. Like, there will come a day when they are, you know, validated in their pride in their program. Like, that doesn't just go away. That's instilled in who Nebraska football is. Like, they will not just allow their program to just wither away. Like, it is all cyclical, and it will return. There will be good, bright days in Nebraska. That being said, if like Scott Frost was not the guy to do that, it seems tough to find a guy who's going to do that, if that makes sense.
No, that's a very fair point. Because, yeah, you got, I mean, what was, the hottest name in football, and he couldn't come do it. Now it's the argument of, you know, I mean, there was a lot of stuff going on. Obviously, some people were wondering if he still had the respect of the players and all this stuff. And there were a lot of guys on that team that said they are there because of Frost. They said that in the summer. So I don't want to go into like he lost the team or anything like that. I don't think that was the case. And then there's the whole thing about people were upset he was too controlling over the offense and everything. But for me personally, I mean, you're the head coach. Like, do you want a head coach who's not doesn't think that he has the best interest in mind of everything that's going on with the football team? That was kind of my thought process. But I think it gets to, can you find a guy who's proven at the Power 5 level as a head coach? Because that was one thing. Scott Frost beat Power 5 teams, went undefeated, but it was group of 5 schedule for the most part until kind of the last, I mean, probably played two to three, maybe Power 5 teams that year. So I think that's that's your arguing point right there. And I really am falling on the whole, hey, it just didn't work for whatever reason. Like, it did not happen, because I could still see Scott Frost. Who knows? He might be the Alabama offensive coordinator next year, or he might be a group of 5 head coach and do successful and then get another shot. I mean, he's still fairly young, especially for a head coach. So, and that's kind of the mood around Nebraska too, is everyone's like wishing him well now that it's done. Even the people that were ready for him to leave, they're still like, hey, I hope this guy does well. And I hope, me personally, I hope the guy still feels comfortable coming back. Probably not for a little bit, but I would love to have him come back to a game or something. And I think he would get a standing ovation and everyone would be happy to see him, because he's still a guy that won you a national championship, if nothing else. And a guy that wanted to
positively
win
to the program. Yeah.
And wanted to win. Like, it's not like he did this on purpose. Like, it just didn't work for whatever reason.
All right. A little hypothetical here. Frost goes, let's say he's an offensive analyst for a year. And then, maybe he moves up to offensive coordinator there at Alabama. And then, so this is 2-3, maybe he's there for 2-3 years. So that's 4 years down the road. Then maybe he gets another chance. Maybe he goes to, let's say Big 12. Maybe he goes to, it's important where I use in this hypothetical. I think he's going to go to TCU. So let's say he's now the head coach at TCU. And let's say he has a very successful, like hyper successful 4-year tenure. Well, meanwhile, Nebraska was, maybe they hire, another guy. He comes in and goes 6-6 for several years, maybe squeezes in a 7-5. Then they hire another guy, and maybe he goes, let's just say the timing works out. Scott, like you said, Scott Frost, very young man. Sam Pittman was like almost 60 when he got hired at Arkansas. So this is 8 years down the road now. Scott Frost has been an assistant at Bama, maybe won 2 national championships. He's been a head coach at TCU. He's the hottest name out there again. Nick Saban's retiring, and it's either Bama or what if Scott Frost gets tenure number 2? I figured you knew where I was coming.
Yeah, I knew where you were going with that.
If 8 years down the road, somehow he's proved himself, and you're like, you know what? Maybe it works this time. And he agrees to come back to. Has that ever happened?
No,
it's
Johnny
happened.
Majors went to Tennessee Pitt, but he wasn't successful at his second tenure at Pitt, and it was just kind of a place to retire. But
yeah, no, that's different. No, I feel like someone's done that where they were, and I saw it not that long ago. Someone was fired and then actually got to come back, and I can't remember who it was. It was in college football.
See, like I could almost see Missouri doing that with Barry Odom or something. Like they fired Barry Odom several years ago, and then he's had 4 great years as a defensive coordinator, and then maybe he gets another head coaching job, and then I don't know if he would go back, but it's a funny hypothetical.
Well, because the reason it's funny is because, right, he's kind of leaving on good terms in a way because everyone still likes him for the most part.
They still want him to succeed, right?
Yeah.
It's almost like the ultimate, you know what? It's kind of like, I still even up until this year, that's how he even got this many years because he hasn't been successful. It's like you wanted him to win so bad that you extended his chances. You gave him more chances to elevate the program than really he probably even earned as your head coach because you wanted him to win so bad. You wanted Scott Frost to be so successful, and you willed him to do it, and it just didn't work.
You know what? Here's what I'll say. And I actually thought about this. Have you ever seen The Butterfly Effect? Ashton Kutcher?
No, but
I've seen clips.
So basically, this is a very random movie. It was fine. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it. It's fine. But anyway, the spoiler alert, the whole kind of point of the movie, it ends up, Ashton Kutcher can go back in time and change things for the better. Huh?
Isn't he in prison in this movie? Or am I
in different? Yeah, different. I mean, he can go back in time and change some tragedies. And then he goes back and sees how it the butterfly effect, how it affected so many different things in his life. Yeah. And basically there's this love interest, right? And they love each other. They're perfect for each other. But every time he tries to do something to make it to where they can end up together, something is ruined. Someone dies or someone can't walk there's all kinds of stuff. Their lives are ruined. It just doesn't make sense until it ends up into the movie. He makes it to where they broke ties way early in their lives, and the ending scene, they walk by each other and kind of notice each other, but then don't really say anything. And Ashton Kutcher knows in his mind it's we can't be together because it would just ruin so many other things. I think that's Scott Frost in Nebraska football. For whatever reason, we can't end up together, and we love each other. We do, but it just for whatever reason, it can't work. So that's what I'll say to that.
It's tough. Not a good place to be as a program, just in all honesty. It's just because the answer is where do they go? Because
I know, because I don't love, I'll get into my short list if we want to.
I don't get into it.
Hey, I like K-State guy.
What's his name?
Kleiman or something like that. I like him.
That would be funny. Adrian Martinez goes there. Scott Frost leaves, and then we take their head coach. Yeah, I don't know. I don't hate it.
He won with Adrian Martinez.
Yeah, it's true. But so here's the deal. Here's what's happened. So Huskers named Mickey Joseph interim head coach. Mickey Joseph actually played QB at Nebraska a little, 88 to 91, I believe, maybe 92. And he was formerly wide receivers coach at LSU, coached a couple guys you might know by the names of Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, develop them, can recruit like crazy. He got Dakotas Crawford to come over from LSU. He got Trey Palmer, a former 5-star, to come over, who's like our best receiver now. So the guy can recruit. He's got some deep roots in Louisiana. Like, that'll be open, even if he's the head coach at Nebraska. He's only been a head coach at like the NAIA level where he did kind of okay, but he's super energetic, kind of the perfect guy to have as your interim head coach to basically re-recruit the guys you have on the team and kind of rally the troops and be like, hey, we're playing with house money. Let's like try to do something. And apparently he's already been making some changes, some staff, not necessarily firing guys, but kind of changing responsibilities around, obviously. So got a lot of ideas. So I think this had to have been maybe when he was hired on, kind of a, hey, if something happens, you're the guy. I think this had to have been in the plan earlier. Like, he knew this was going to happen. And I'm excited for him. I mean, it would be kind of ironic. You go from Husker quarterback to Husker quarterback, and the guy you never really thought of ends up succeeding. And so I want to leave that door open. Say Mickey Joseph just wins a couple of games you don't think we're supposed to win. Like, if Mickey Joseph gets a 6-6 season out of this, where you're 1-2, where you thought you'd be 3-0 at this point in the season, you got to seriously consider him as a real candidate. Now, if he crashes and burns, no hard feelings really towards him or anything, right? Because season isn't looking good right now. But I want to leave him on the table, and I think I saw RJ Young had him as like his main guy on the graphic as some of the short list. Now, some other guys I like. Actually, 2 guys I do not want that I tweeted about. I don't want Matt Campbell. For some reason, Nebraska, there's a lot of Nebraska fans that are all about Matt Campbell, and it's all because he's just coaching at Iowa State. He seems like a farm guy. Like, that's it. The guy's 10-7 in his last 17 games. To me, and he made a quote that I think I talked about on this podcast that was very Butch Jones-esque, talking about he didn't care about winning the conference. He just cared about being the best team they could be. And I was like, dude, get that shit out of here. I don't want to hear that.
Nobody wants to hear that.
I don't want a guy like that. Anyway, I don't like Mark Stoops either. There's a lot of people that like Mark Stoops. Here's why I don't think Mark Stoops will come in anyway. The Stoops brothers and the Pelini boys are boys. They grew up together. Mark's going to call up Bo and say, hey, what do you think about this? And Bo's going to be like, well, they didn't like me. So F those fans. Like, after he told us to F off and everything, he's going to think we're crazy and whatnot. That is one thing. I mean, I kind of liked Bo, but at the same time, he basically told us to go F ourselves. So, I mean, whatever. So if he tells Mark Stoops to stay away, that's good with me. Now, a few names I have. Urban is on the list as kind of a long shot. And again, I'm not like pulling for him to be our next head coach for sure, but I'm not going to be disappointed if he is. Like I said, there's a lot that comes with that, though. Obviously, is he gonna, is there going to be stuff that happens if he came to our school? Is there going to be a lot of drama that ensues, or is he going to have a fake heart attack in like a few weeks? Like, I don't know. Now, a guy I would like, Luke Fickell. Again, though, he kind of, it seems like he's waiting for Michigan, Notre Dame, Ohio State. Although I guess, I assume did he have a shot at Notre Dame?
I don't know. I would have felt like he would have gone to Notre Dame. That's why I kind of almost penciled him in at Notre Dame.
Yeah. But, so maybe, I mean, I could see him just waiting for the Ohio State job, because I could see Ryan Days. I could see him going to the NFL. Yeah.
I could maybe see that. It'd be kind of cool.
But I mean, he's a guy you have to call, right? A couple other guys I like. Seth, you might not like this one, but I actually like Bill O'Brien a lot. I think he kind of fits that attitude of like Nebraska people, like very blue collar. Seems like a more polished Bo Pelini, and already took over a program during the Sandusky era at Penn State. I mean, ended up just corralling those guys and saving them from a dumpster fire, going 8-4 or whatnot. I mean, I just like him. I think he can coach, and I don't think the question is, does he want to get back to the NFL? I think if he came to a place like Nebraska and was the head coach, that could be something that really locks him in.
Yeah. I don't necessarily hate that. I mean, wouldn't be like my first choice just because he doesn't jump off. He's just he's not my favorite character. Like, he's just smug a little bit, seems to me. But I mean, he's been an NFL coach for a while. I mean, and like not great. I don't think he was a great GM. I think that was his bigger problem when he got like more responsibility. I think he started to struggle. But like at times, had good teams and been on the Alabama staff now. I mean, but we'll see. I mean, he did just have a pretty poor offensive performance.
True.
This last week, but I mean, it's hard to judge one game. I don't hate that. It wouldn't be, like I said, it wouldn't be my first choice, but.
Yeah. Well, and what he did do as well is he left like a pretty good situation for James Franklin to come into. Like all he did was leave like Saquon Barkley and a good quarterback and good defensive line for James Franklin to take over. So he left it in a good position as well. So here's another thing that a lot of Husker fans are talking about is, Nebraska's big on having a Nebraska guy or whatnot. And, I don't think that means it has to be someone from the program or anything. But I think there needs to be kind of an attitude that fits Nebraska people. That's where I kind of am out on, people have mentioned Gus Malzahn, which I don't think is a good fit anyway. But even a guy like Hugh Freeze, who I think like maybe he could do a good job, but I just don't. There has to be some sort of, honestly, like the guy almost has to be kind of Midwestern in a way, I guess is what I'm getting at. Like, I just don't see the Southern drawl rolling out in a Nebraska polo. Like it just doesn't work for me. Ironically, considering I myself am from Tennessee, but let's see some other names. Really, the next one that I would go for, Lance Leopold over at Kansas. I think he's doing a pretty good job, at least kind of rearing them back to winning games anyway. He has some Nebraska ties. He was on the staff from, I think, 01 to 03, sandwiched in between a stint at Nebraska Omaha for a long time, actually. So he's a guy you make a call for. But the thing is it's going to come down to Trev Alberts, our AD, making the decision. And I think he wants to hire it. To me, it seems like he wants to hire a guy who is proven, because he knows this has to be a home run hire and he's willing to pay whatever it's going to take. So I'm super excited to see where it goes. Again, I'll say if Mickey Joseph is able to rattle off some wins, I think he has to be like a legit candidate, because I don't think he really is right now. But I think, I mean, obviously, if he
but he's the one with opportunity,
exactly.
That's kind of the cool, and he's got more of a season to work with. Like, it's not like, oh, you're going to coach the last game of the year as just like a throwaway. Like, they have a lot of season left. Like, that's a lot of games to play and opportunities to kind of prove yourself. Yeah, if you can salvage a season out of this, I mean, who's to say you couldn't get a shot to be that guy? Yeah, like right now, you're probably not a realistic top candidate, but if you make yourself be a candidate, like have that team ready to play and win enough games to make yourself be a candidate, make them consider you. So that's kind of nice to at least have the opportunity to get to show yourself as like, hey, I've actually put results. I've won games as Nebraska's head football coach already. Like none of the other guys have. So it'll be interesting. It's just finding a good coach is really hard. It's just really hard.
Yeah, and I almost forgot another name I actually really like, and this kind of ties in with Mickey Joseph as well because they work together at LSU. I would like Dave Aranda from Baylor as well.
Yeah,
I think he could play really well.
I think that would be a pretty. I would like that.
That'd be. And it would be. I mean, that's where Nebraska's money kind of comes into play. It's like because I mean, Baylor. It's not a top tier program all time or anything, but it's a good job, and a lot of people would be content staying there. But I mean, if you flash,
not everybody.
Yeah, that's true. If you flash millions at a dude, I mean, more than Baylor's paying, obviously, especially, I don't care what anyone says. Nebraska still has some clout as being Nebraska, like being a program like that. And you're going to have the support that you won't have at a school like Baylor.
The fact that they still fill that stadium to the brim every single week is just crazy. No one else does that. Like Alabama starts losing. Like if Alabama had a stretch like Nebraska's had, that stadium is, I mean, they're not full. Yeah, it's not full.
Dude, their fans leave the games at halftime anyway right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's just, you got to believe someone's going to be able to spark that. Like there's too much support, and they are, like you said too, they are in a division that is gettable. Like that's their schedule year in and year out is not a murderer's row by any means necessary. Like to at least be competitive and good, Oh, so you gotta think someone's got to be able to do it, and hopefully it's this next guy. But I don't know what percent of college football coaches get fired within 5 years.
Probably pretty high, right?
Yeah, I was thinking that
60,
it's like
70%.
like even good coaches only last 6-7 like years, and that's like good coaches that had probably like a good year or two.
Yeah.
So it's tough out there to find somebody to come in and do their thing. But but a good coach changes everything and almost immediately. Like a good coach in year 2, you can tell. Like you truly can tell in year 2 of their program whether it's going to be, and that's kind of I'm not the first person to like state that. But I am pretty like Sam Pittman got Arkansas to a top 10 team in a 9-win season in year 2.
In the toughest division in football.
Yeah, with an insane schedule. Playing Georgia, I mean, I know y'all play Georgia, Alabama every year, but playing them too, and in the SEC West, just a brutal schedule. And so you saw that, like, okay, he's kind of got it, like that. He's seriously elevated things in just a very short amount of time. Like, yeah, he can. There's still room to even go higher, but like, he's able to get it done. You kind of get that sense of security. So hopefully, in 2 years. And Dave Aranda, I think I like that a lot. I think you got to find a guy that's willing to win it, and you got to find a guy who's probably happy to use the transfer portal and will be really great at that, because that's a huge part, and that's where Nebraska, I feel like, should eat. Like, hey, you're a really good player. Come get crazy exposure.
NIL deals.
Come rake it in at Nebraska. Like, our fan support can carry a program. Like, fan support has carried Tennessee through some rough patches, but like when they get back there, like, that they're kind of going to get back at, even if it's just seasons at a time, and and still there. Like, so, if Nebraska gets hot, it's just right. They're right back where they were. And the fan support hasn't even really wavered. It's just a disappointed week after week. The support's still there. They're just bummed out. And they're just not excited over some big wins. But it's time for the Huskers to just kind of they need to cement themselves in the Big Ten. Like, I feel like, for such a strong program that they haven't really done much since joining the conference. So it'd be nice to kind of make a jump into the upper tier of the conference like they should be. Nebraska should be a top 4 team in the Big Ten most years, I would say. I think that's
I would agree.
Fair.
If you look at like tradition, you have Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, and Nebraska. Like, that kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, you're not really throwing Michigan State in there. I mean, like, Michigan State's good, but it's not the same,
Yeah, like Michigan State, Wisconsin probably have their years where they're one of the top 4 teams, but not like. But I'm just saying Nebraska should be right there on par with Wisconsin.
Yeah,
that's kind of my comp that I would say, like, they literally should, like, you can almost pencil Wisconsin in for 9 wins. Like, most years 10, honestly. Like, they've just been that consistent because they beat the teams they're supposed to beat.
Yeah.
Like, Wisconsin hasn't ever been, they're never like a true juggernaut of a team, even though they've had some really good teams, but they win the games they're supposed to win. And as an elevated program, like, there are 8 or 9 games on Nebraska's schedule that they should win as Nebraska. Like, their program is better than 8 or 9 of these games. And then you put yourself in position to win a few more on top of that. But they just haven't done that. Like, they can't even beat the teams they're supposed to beat. Even when they win against teams they're supposed to beat, it's looked bad. So it was time. I mean, that's the thing. Unfortunately, it was time. And I don't even, like, in retrospect, yeah, you can say, well, we should have fired Frost just at the end of last season and just, but, the decision was made. I think most people, I mean, I don't know the true feeling, but I would feel like most people were okay with that decision because it was known, like, hey, this is it. Like, this is your season. If you come out, like, he knew that was a possibility if he came out like this and they started 1-2, and yeah, you're gone against losing 2 games as like pretty high favorites. So yeah, it's like he knew it was coming. And that's a tough thing. It's never fun to, like, lose a coach just because it means you're just starting back at spot 0. And Scott Frost proves even time you never know how something's going to work out. Like you never know. The signs could all point towards it's a great hire, and everyone could praise and applaud you, and then it just not end up, anything special. And Scott Frost was even more disappointing than you could have really thought, to be honest. Overall, like you might have thought, maybe Scott Frost doesn't win national championships in Nebraska, but man, they're going to be solid. Like he's going to put together a good product on the field. He just didn't. I mean, he just did not do it.
Yeah, no, you're right. I will say this. I think there's a little bit of a weight lifted off everyone's shoulders too, that it is over now. Yeah. Because now you're going into Oklahoma and it's like, hey, you're playing with house money. You got nothing to lose against an Oklahoma team that, they ended up winning big, but was up 3-0 at half to Kent State, I think. So, and it looks like your offense is going to score points.
Yeah,
so,
just shoot it out.
Who knows?
I think you just got to shoot out with Oklahoma and just hope for the best. Yeah, I actually, in my little pick-em I do, as dumb as it sounds, I'm riding with the Huskers, man. This is the game that they win. The weight has been lifted. I think that's right. It almost is like play free, play unbound, and just go out there and win a football game.
Yeah.
Like do what you all know how to do. Go play football, have fun, and just win. Like you'll have a crowd that is just happy to be there,
Yep.
It's like,
that's a really good point.
Like honestly, you probably feel better going to this game now that Scott Frost. Like you're going to this game, right?
Yep.
Like
boys
are you there. Actually, honestly, a little happier going into it without Scott Frost as the head coach? I mean, especially knowing what happened last week. Like,
here, you actually know the thing is say like we lost, Scott Frost is still the coach, then I'm kind of doom and gloom. Like, dude, this isn't happening. But now it's kind of like, hey, man, we literally have nothing to lose. Like if we go out and it doesn't look good, it's kind of like, okay, well, we're on a coaching search, so no big deal. But if we come out and win, it's like, dude, this is awesome. Yeah. Or honestly, if it's a good game, game, I think some Nebraska fans will be pretty happy. They will.
Yeah, it's just like, you know what? We're just going to ride the season out. We love the Huskers. Like, that's not going to stop.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of what I was saying about the Titans even. It's like they lost a bummer game. Yeah, but like I'm not going to stop watching and loving the Titans and like hoping they win. And I'm not going to stop believing in the Titans. If their ball is on the field and the Huskers are lining up, like, come on, boys. Like, let's win this game.
Yeah, regardless, Memorial Stadium. Yeah, I was just going to say, regardless, Memorial Stadium is one of the best venues in college football to watch a game.
Yeah. And like fan delusion is just so real, because like I remember it was like 2019 and Alabama was number 1 in the country. Arkansas was on the road, and like I was at the game and I woke up that morning and was just like, they're going to throw the ball out there. Like Razorbacks could take this one home. I mean, like, why not?
Oh yeah. If anyone thinks I've given up on, like, I will go into every game being like, yeah, we could win this no matter what. I mean, yeah. Especially knowing that we have, like, I think we have a really good quarterback, really good receivers, and one of the best running backs in the country. Anthony Grant has turned into, I mean, he was one of the top JUCO guys, and he's turned into a beast. I mean, he has 100 yards in every game so far. I think he has like 400 something maybe already. So, I mean, I know we can score some points, and that is a big deal in college football right now. Like, yeah, our defense sucks, but hey, maybe we'll just score every time.
Yeah. Why not just put together a good offensive game? Yeah. Well, I got the Huskers this week. Let's go. Beat OU. Why not? Why not just have some fun? That would be just a celebration.
It would be.
Yeah. What do you think, Scott? Okay, I know we're probably wrapping up here. It's been a pretty long pod, but what do you think Scott Frost is doing like during the OU Nebraska game?
I mean,
I kind of just going for a run. Like if that was me, I'd literally put my headphones in and I'm going running for the next 4 hours. Like,
maybe you're like going fishing or golfing or something.
Yeah,
just get away from it. But I would.
Dang, maybe he was playing too much golf.
I would kind of like to think that he'd be sitting on the couch watching the boys and cheering them on, and I kind of think he will be.
I probably would be. Like I would. If I
don't know though. I mean, dude. Imagine being Scott Frost in this situation. Like that hurts.
That hurts bad.
Not just because they fired you, but because it's like, dang, I didn't do it. Like I failed.
Yeah, that's not the firing part. Like that's even because he's probably been so stressed. Like it actually is like you said, kind of in a weird way, a weight's lifted off Nebraska fans. Like think about Scott Frost. Like honestly, a weight has probably been lifted. Like he has been under so much scrutiny and just like pressure. And even though it's like almost more pressure because they wanted it so bad for him that like he couldn't produce and he like it's just mounting. And so I think it honestly, and let's be honest, dude got 15 million, like to not like it's hard to feel super like I don't feel sorry. I would bet he feels pretty bad. But at the same time, it's like, well, things could like as a human being, things could be worse.
Yeah, I got
like,
15 mil. I could go retire right now if I want.
I retire. He could be legitimately done, and he could do whatever he wants now. He could disappear and never be seen again. He could buy a house in Lincoln and hang out and live there for, like he could literally do whatever he wants. Yeah. And so it probably will hurt for a while and be weird and hard for him, especially like failing at the place where you were like destined to succeed. Like if in my life, which is, I'll say this very frankly, it is my dream to be the head coach of Arkansas Razorbacks. Like doing that would be the greatest accomplishment. Like it would make my life like, if somehow I got to that position, obviously I would have had a lot of success to get there. Like in no way am I handed the job, and neither was Scott Frost, even though they wanted him to succeed. Like he earned a head coaching position at Nebraska by being a good coach, like by being a coach that was worthy of that type of Power 5 job. But if like you get that job, that's your ultimate position, and then you kind of fail there when everything seems stacked in your favor, it's just tough to handle. And he'll have to process that, like any human has to process failure and different stuff. But we'll see where it goes from here.
Yep.
I don't know. Maybe he'll go coach high school football or just chill.
Honestly, maybe. I'm sure he'd have fun.
Alma mater in Nebraska.
In Wood River.
Yeah, in Wood River.
That'd be hilarious.
That'd be pretty cool.
That'd be pretty chill. I think people would like gravitate towards that, honestly.
I kind of agree with you. We'll see. It just all depends on what he wants to do.
Maybe he'll go coach in the NFL like Cliff Kingsbury. Yeah. Fail in college and then get promoted to head coach in the NFL. That still blows my mind. And I don't want to talk about this for very long, but Cliff Kingsbury got fired at Texas Tech, bro. He couldn't win at Texas Tech, and the next job
with Patrick Mahomes.
And then he got hired as an NFL head coach. What are you thinking? I don't care what his offensive system is. If he can't win at Texas Tech more than like 7 games, if he gets fired, the Red Raiders didn't even want Cliff Kingsbury.
Where he went, he played there.
That literally is like Scott Frost getting hired by someone in the NFL next year.
Yeah.
Quite literally the same. Oh my. All right, let's go. We need to wrap it up.
All right, yeah, we'll wrap it up there, guys. Thanks again for listening. This has been Pay Dirt Sports, part of the Six Pack Coverage Network. Big thanks to Ryan Schumpert from Rocky Top Insider coming on. Be sure to check all their stuff out, Rocky Top Insider, on all the socials, and Ryan Schumpert, just search him up. You'll be able to find him. Check us out. paydirtsports.blog is the website, at paydirt_sports on Twitter, at paydirtsports on Instagram. Also check out Six Pack Coverage. Obviously, they're at Six Pack Coverage on all socials. sixpackcoverage.com for all kinds of sports, entertainment, news. Check them out, guys. Thanks again for listening, and we will be very excited to talk to you next week.
Pay Dirt out.